Last week, Senate Republicans blocked a bill to create a commission to investigate the January 6th attack on the Capitol. 6 Republicans joined 48 Democrats voting yes, leaving the bill short of the 60 votes needed to bypass the filibuster. The family of deceased Capitol Police Officer Brian Sicknick lobbied lawmakers in the hopes of changing minds to support a commission. In a new interview with CBS News congressional correspondent Nikole Killion, Officer Sicknick's mother and longtime partner had some harsh words for those who remained opposed.
He texted me, he says, "I'm busy right now, I can't talk." And that was the last I heard from him.
It was January 6th, the final time Gladys Sicknick would communicate with her son. After he was attacked with chemical spray and collapsed, his longtime companion, Sandra Garza, got the fateful call to rush to the hospital.
Did you get to say goodbye?
No, I did not. They would not let me back to see Brian. It was only then when the emergency physician and the charge nurse came out to tell me that, he was on a ventilator. And I knew then that he wasn't fine. Thinking of you.
For nearly 5 months, consolation has come through cards from complete strangers.
Just when you think that the cards stop, they start coming again. From all over the country, and the world, actually.
And what does that mean to you?
That there are good people in this world.
Last week, they finally made the decision to speak out, going door to door on Capitol Hill to demand a bipartisan commission investigate the Capitol attack.
We want answers, and nobody has the answers. I mean, even the people who voted for this bill, they don't have any answers, and it's just sad.
Despite their best efforts,
the motion is not agreed to.
They watched as the Senate struck it down, 6 votes short.
I'm disgusted that the Republican senators that decided to vote no, it's a spit in the face to Brian. It's a spit in the face to all the officers that were there that day.
But their frustration doesn't solely lie with Congress.
So ultimately, do you blame the former president?
Yes, I do.
And I was a person who supported Donald Trump. Brian was a supporter of his. I mean, even on Brian's Twitter page, he had Donald Trump's personal plane in the background as his background picture. He was still the president at that time. And he knew that Brian was, devoted to him. And he did not once reach out to me, to Gladys. He didn't even send a letter of condolences. He did absolutely nothing.
He just watched it on television like it was a soap opera. I don't understand it. How can you be so uncaring?
For me, this isn't about, being a Republican or a Democrat, it's none of that. It's about doing what's right for the country.
And doing right by Brian.
Well, Brian was he was a gentle soul. He really was. And he had a work ethic that was unbelievable. And but don't push him in a corner. So what happened now, I think he would be appalled. But he says it'll get better, and it will, I'm sure. And hopefully Brian will have left a legacy that will help our country.
And Nikole Killion joins me now with more. Nikole, really powerful interviews. I want to start with some more sound. And this is about how Officer Sicknick's partner felt trying to find enough senators to back this bill. Let's listen to that.
But I do feel like we did have an impact because there was some that we met with that were on the fence, I think, and they did ultimately vote yes.
Did it bother you that some senators weren't even there?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Like I said, I feel like that's a dereliction of duty. What are they in Congress for? I mean, it's not time to bow out just because you're uncomfortable. They were doing that to save face. It's like, well, if I don't vote, then, I can kind of be in the middle. No. The officers that were there that day, they didn't bow out. They went into the eye of the storm.
Nikole, I'm curious, did they mention specific members of Congress who were especially helpful?
Well, I think it was a mixed experience for them being here on Capitol Hill. On the one hand, I think they were appreciative, and they did say that they were appreciative of all the senators who sat down with them, even those who disagreed and didn't necessarily support the commission. There were other meetings that were more contentious, where they knew they probably weren't going to win those particular lawmakers over. And, if anything, I think their frustration simply lies in those no votes. As far as Gladys Sicknick is concerned, she just wants answers, and she feels that, these lawmakers aren't even giving her a good explanation for why they're voting no. So that is kind of where their frustration is. They feel a lot of this is being hampered by politics, and that some of these lawmakers are simply, opposing this commission out of allegiance to Republican leaders, including the former president.
Well, Nikole, I want to play another clip. This is asking about the timing of the public push from Officer Sicknick's family. Here's what they had to say on that.
Why did you decide that this was the moment that you needed to speak out?
We want answers, and nobody has the answers. I mean, even the people who voted for this bill, they don't have any answers, and it's just sad. Doesn't everybody want to know what happened?
I decided to come forward because I'm angry. I'm very angry, and I know Gladys is too. She's angry. She's just a little bit more softer around the edges than I am. I'm angry. When I saw that footage, I was horrified. I feel that certain members of Congress are trying to sweep this under the rug, and that's unacceptable.
Nikole, you can really sense her anger in that bite. Is it clear who she means there?
Oh, well, again, I think their primary concern is that some of these Republican lawmakers especially are opposing this commission out of allegiance or support to the former president. And, as you heard in the interview as well, they do fault the former president to a certain extent for his role in all of this. And then on top of it, the insult of not even getting any kind of condolence letter from him. And so that is really their chief concern. They feel that, this is an issue that shouldn't be Democrat or Republican. This is about country, and having a commission like this is important to them to try to get the answers, not only about what happened to Officer Sicknick, but the other officers who were injured and those who have since died from that day. They feel that these lawmakers owe it to all of them to really give them a full accounting of what happened, considering that had it not been for these officers protecting them here at the Capitol, they could have very well been in graver danger or harm. And so they feel like, many of these lawmakers here on the Hill aren't doing as much as they could to try to get answers and try to get to the bottom of what happened that day.
And on the former president, as we heard in your piece a few moments ago, Officer Sicknick was an avid supporter of President Trump, who the Capitol rioters were trying to keep in office even though he lost the election. Let's go ahead and play your question to Sandra Garza on how she feels about the former president now.
What would you say to him?
I would ask him, I would say, why didn't you reach out to us and at least offer your condolences about Brian? You knew Brian really liked you a lot. And I would ask him why he failed all law enforcement that day. He has an opportunity to turn this around. If he's really going to back the blue, then back it up with your actions. Attacking the dead cop's family and loved ones is not the way to do it. He needs to close down.
Nikole, has the former president said anything about Officer Sicknick's death publicly or privately?
Not to our knowledge, and as you know, the former president really has never expressed any type of apology or remorse for that day, although he has defended his actions and, has felt that he has had no role in this. Really most of what we heard from the former president at the time is that he loved his supporters who were here at the Capitol that day, and he encouraged them to go home. And obviously, at the time, too, you'll recall the White House and the former president condemned the violence ultimately that happened. But again, no direct personal responsibility or apology from that. And so I think, again, in the view of Sandra Garza and the view of Gladys Sicknick, you know, I think they just want that personal acknowledgement because Sandra told me, for instance, for Christmas, you know, she gave Brian a whole several bottles of Trump wines. I mean, that's how much he loved the former president. And so to not get any type of communication or outreach for him or just from his office, because, you know, his mother pointed out, I mean, these are typically things even just the office of the president might do, really kind of took them aback.
So given where things stand now, Nikole, ultimately, where does Officer Sicknick's family want to go from here?
So they aren't giving up on this idea of a commission, and they say that they will continue to meet with lawmakers. They are meeting with Congresswoman Liz Cheney this week. As far as, you know, Brian's a larger legacy, they say it's still kind of too soon for them to figure out next steps. They're still in the grieving process, so they don't know, for instance, if they may set up some type of foundation eventually. They're still kind of thinking through those types of ideas. But as far as the commission, again, that still remains a top priority for them. And we have since learned, actually, in the course of today, that congressional leaders, specifically House Democrats, are looking at other potential options. There were a number of calls today with the House Democratic caucus and among leadership, and so we understand, according to two sources familiar with those calls, that a couple of different avenues that they could pursue include trying to get this commission back on track to see if maybe there are enough Republicans in the Senate that might be able to support it. So maybe kind of going back a second time and seeing if they can bring this up again in the Senate, because you'll recall there were several senators who didn't even vote that day, who weren't here. You know, the vote stretched late into the night the day before, and so some senators had left town. So there is a possibility of trying to bring it up again in the Senate. Also, Speaker Pelosi has made clear she may consider a select committee, so that's another option, or just letting the current committees that are already investigating, you know, continue those probes. And finally, one other option under consideration is possibly to start another investigation through one specific committee, perhaps like the House Homeland Security Committee. So those are a couple of options that were being discussed today as far as next steps. And, you know, I can tell you, in terms of speaking with Gladys and Sandra, they're certainly supportive of, again, not just a commission, but potentially a select committee if it comes to that.
Well, as I said, Nikole, just incredibly compelling and powerful interview. Listening to them speak, you can really hear and feel the pain that they are going through right now. Nikole Killion on Capitol Hill for us. Nikole, thank you so much.
Thank you.